Have you ever asked yourself, where am I in this spiritual awakening journey? For those of us who are pretty new to this and we don't have talents that has been developed over years, we might be asking that question. Today I'm going to go through the stage with you that helps you to identify exactly where you're at. Coming right up. Depending on where you are, whether you're just starting out or you have been on this journey for a number of years, every now and again we try to measure up by saying, hey, where am I? How much further do I have to go? What are some of the things that I'll need to go through? Have I gone through my dark night of the soul as yet? Am I in the category where I can start to channel or listen to my spirit guides and all these what we would call cool stuff of spirituality that people seems to want to gravitate to. And so what I want to do today is provide a framework that we can use that says, hey, here is how we mature through our spiritual development, so that will give you a better understanding as to how this lines up. If you have never heard of the tree of knowledge and the tree of good and evil and the tree of life that's in Genesis, you might be wondering then what this is all about, because those trees actually presents to us a way of understanding the spiritual growth and awakening, along with what they call the ray of creation and how our different bodies and souls like that line up. So the tree is in there. This is from the Jewish doctrine, but it got taken out when the Christian part sort of came in, right? And what the Jews call it is the Kabbalah. So I'll put that on screen so we can see what that looks like. But you can find this picture of the Kabbalah anywhere on the internet. So the Kabbalah, or the 10 Sephiros, because it has 10 different sections in there, gives you the information from called the ray of creation. It gives you the different steps through which creation emanated. The Kabbalah has your spiritual growth. And really, it starts where the famous saying that's in the Bible, we need to born again. Okay? So it starts where you need to be born again. And then it goes through and it gives you things like, well, here is the physical body. Here is the vital body, the mental, emotional, spiritual, and all the different souls before you get to the kingdom. Now, what it doesn't show you is the Kunda buffer, or the tail of Satan, which is what's below that. So before you're actually born again, there's somewhere that we have to go through. The interesting thing about the born again is that the born again isn't your physical being born again. And I think most of us actually know that. It is what is considered your emotional born again. We call it the spiritual born again. It's the vibrational born again. Whichever phrase you want to put, it basically means the exact same thing, right? It's a born again that is going to be within you, not a born again that is going to be outside of you. You are not going to become a child again or go back into your mom's womb, as the famous quote goes. So what happened is, that's to be born again. But then there is the bottom part, which they never tell us about. They never teach us about. They just teach us about that top part. And for the most part, the top part is much harder because you have to be at a certain stage before you get there, right? And so it was put into place where, hey, because this is so difficult and only certain people can attain it, that if you want to get there, you have to go through these guys or this system, right? That can help you to get there. But the first part where you are supposed to be able to do the development yourself was never shown to us. That's what I'm going to show today. The first part of the tree of life and our development that we are supposed to go through that was never shown to us. So let's get started. So here is the bottom half of the tree of life. This is the part that's called the tree of knowledge and good and evil. This is where you learn how to develop. So I'm just going to start off and give you a brief overview of the entire thing. And then later on, we'll be going in depth into what I would consider spiritual growth and development. So we follow this chart in order to get the spiritual growth and development of anyone. Say, okay, here's where you are. Once we can do a good analysis as to what your spirituality is, we can say this is where you are, this is where we can start you off. These are some of the things that you're expected to be able to do or understand, and then we go from there. Now, it doesn't mean that you won't know about anything else, because of course you are going to understand what the entire tree is, but we know exactly where you need to then now concentrate so that you don't spend your time in all these different places when you're not there yet, when you might be either too far ahead or too low. You might not be in the transcendental part, but then you're trying to practice transcendental, you're in transcendental spiritual practices, right? So that's what we're going to try to eliminate here. So when you look at the chart, you see where it starts with the age. You'll see where it starts with the age allegory in that column. We are supposed to live allegorically up to 120 years per the Bible. And the Bible still has some very good information in there. So what this is doing is that it's breaking up your development into the allegory of a human being being born and living until 120. And he says, well, at what stage are you supposed to go through the different things? So you have 0 to 12. This is the part where you're just being born. And if you were to look at this as a real child, you realize, you're just born. You're very dependent on someone else for everything. At this moment, this is where things like religion, structure, understanding, training comes in. And it's really very important for an individual to get the foundation of any type of spirituality. And spirituality, again, is life. Spirituality is everything that we do. So the training that we're going to get, that we should get here, is both how to know that we are a spiritual being, and how to know that we are a spiritual being having a physical experience. The allegory for this as well is hell, and actually everything in Satan's tale is considered hell, which, by the way, means we are in hell. So a couple of things: we're in hell, we fear things, and we're very dependent. This is where we are trying to become self-aware, and we're experiencing with stuff. So you put it in the spiritual context and you say, okay, this is where you start going, oh, so there is something going on apart from just my physical being. It's called the spiritual side. It's called the vibrational. I'm hearing a lot more about these things that I need to believe in, these things that I need to trust. And so you're dependent on other people to provide you with correct information for all these things that are happening, right? And so that's up to about 12 years old. From 12 to 21, you're becoming more dependent, right? And so you're starting to find out who you are and what it is that you do and stuff like that. You're developing what's considered yourself, right? Your personality. Well, the spiritual development is no different. At this point, you're doing the same thing. You're starting to understand, okay, so I was born into this culture that says these are the things that we need to do, but the culture that I was born into is very open. So they explained to me that there are other cultures that practice different forms of spirituality. And, hey, if you would like to see what they are, you can definitely explore them, right? You're still under the religious sect as to the one that you're born in. And so you still have, they still have control over you or high influence over you. But what will happen there, or what should happen there, is you should be able to experience and explore some of the other ones, at least have the knowledge right there. And so, again, religion plays a very crucial part in your development. And the spiritual development there has where we say, okay, you're now going to see what your desires are, what your aspirations are. What are some of the things, what are some of your spiritual gifts that you can do? Because you have your physical gift, you have your spiritual gifts. And when you bring them together, they should make you the individual that you are going to turn out to be. We're really not meant to all be herded into the same box or into the same group and saying, okay, we're going to go through the system this way and everybody's supposed to fit in. This is an expanded universe. We all have different talents that the world requires, that this universe requires. And unfortunately, sometimes we don't get the opportunity to express ourselves, because in this section is where a lot of cap and the control mechanisms and conditioning and programming is done. And when that's done, if that's done a certain way, then you won't be able to explore and find out exactly who you need to be. So it's important to find out, where is this person spiritually? Is this person a divine sovereign thinker, or is this person still under the control or the influence of the things that they were taught prior? And so we go through that and we help out and see where they are. And if we're honest enough, and the only way this is going to work is if you're honest enough. If you're honest enough, we can get to the correct part and say, okay, here are some of the things that we need to work on. Unfortunately, between up to age 21, allegorically, from a spiritual perspective, is where a lot of us are. We are very dependent on the religious system. We go there every time. We haven't been let out, as I say, out of the family house. We haven't been allowed to go out on our own and then start to develop our own self. Now, if you have kids, we know that at age 21 is generally where most young adults will then say, okay, we can venture out and we can go see what things are like. So until next time, take care and goodbye.